Hello and welcome. It's time to talk about style. I don't mean fashion, I don't mean looks, I mean negotiating style. Negotiating style, the way we talk about negotiating style is uses the language of conflict. So we are going to be talking about aggressive, we're going to be talking about passive. Some of us are collaborators, some of us are avoiders. There's no right or wrong, but there is appropriate or inappropriate. And sometimes there is authentic and fake. The takeaway from this course, negotiating style should always be a decision. It is not destiny. It's not personality. It's not personal chemistry. You should select your negotiating style based on your goals and the power balance in this negotiation. So let's begin by talking about the big four negotiating styles. If you care only about your own interests, we're going to put you on the upper left. You're on the y-axis, and all you care about is your own outcomes. If you care only about your partner's interest, the counterparty's interest, we're going to put you on the bottom right. And these two axes meet at the lower left, where you don't want to negotiate at all. So this is the standard chart that we use to discuss negotiating style or conflict management style. If you want more information or you want to take a self-test on this, look up the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument. I'll put up a link for that later. Or read G. Richard Shell's Bargaining for Advantage. It's an excellent book, and I recommend it highly. Caring about only your own interest is probably the default mode for most business negotiators, but we know that you can't focus 100% on your own interests 100% of the time, right? We do know that, right? Yes, we do. So let's learn some basic terminology. If you care only about your own interests, 99% for you, 1% for the other guy, it sounds just fine for you, then you are a competitive negotiator. If you go the other way, and if you really need to make this sale or you really need to make this purchase and you'll do anything to get it, then you are accommodating. If you want if you're one of these 2 + 2 = 5 collaborators, then you are a collaborator. You want what's best for both sides. And the other extreme is you're an avoider if you would rather not negotiate at all. You're happy with the status quo and you don't want to get involved. And what about compromise, which should reside right in the middle of all of this? Well, we'll talk about that in more detail later when we start strategizing about how to deploy these different approaches. But for now, we'll just say that compromise is a great place to end up, but a terrible place to start. The problem, you may feel your first offer is extremely reasonable and that you're already compromising, but you'll never convince the other side of that. So now let's look at your negotiating style animals. It's like the mythical spirit animal, but more magic. So let's start with an easy one, the aggressive shark, a cold-hearted hunter, an apex predator, and a merciless killing machine. Don't get me wrong, I'm saying this is a compliment, but this is not a win-win player. A shark does not change, though from a distance he may sometimes look like a playful dolphin or a delightful porpoise. This guy is a killer, and he does not change. The win-win player, the second type that we're going to look at, is the collaborative bonobo monkey, or the chimps. Their whole society is set up to be cooperative, and that's the key here. It's structural for them. It's not emotional. They're not deciding to be collaborative. Their society is set up that way. They have rules and processes that are designed to reinforce their collaborative strategy. And if you want to be a collaborator, you're going to have to go through that same process. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices to please your counterparty. And if you are a seller in a buyer's market, or if you're a buyer in a time of shortage or in a monopoly situation, then you are going to have to learn to accommodate. This guy lives to make the other side happy, no matter what. And finally, there's the avoider. And you may know this guy. He simply doesn't care if you are in the room or not. He doesn't want to take your call. This is the government bureaucrat. This is the purchasing agent with too many suppliers. This is anyone who you have to get through a gatekeeper just to meet. You have to negotiate with this guy twice. The first time is just to get them to the table, and the second time is to actually do the deal. And right in the middle is the wily and mysterious human. He compromises cleverly, darting with alacrity from one sector to another. But he ends up in the middle. And it's a fine place to end up. Just don't start there. Thanks very much. I'll talk to you again in a bit.